Good evening and welcome to News Tonight on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha. Let's get started with the top stories of the day. Indian Air Force's AN-32 aircraft flying from Jorhat in Assam to Arunachal Pradesh goes missing, with 8 crew members and 5 passengers on board. As search operation continues, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh seeks status report from Vice Chief Air Marshal Rakesh Singh. Rajnath Singh visits Siachen base camp for the first time since becoming Defence Minister. Meets officials, takes stock of security situation. Salutes the soldiers serving in the difficult terrain. Ajit Doble to continue as National Security Advisor with an elevated rank of Union Cabinet Minister. Appointments Committee of Cabinet approves appointment for 5-year period. Severe heat wave grips large parts of India. Mercury crosses 45 degrees Celsius in most states in northern India. Rajasthan's Churu records highest temperature of 49.8 degrees Celsius. Conditions likely to continue for the next few days. And government revises its draft education policy, drops provision of compulsory teaching of Hindi in non-Hindi speaking states. Decision of third language selection will now depend on the students. Top story this evening, an AN-32 transport aircraft of the Indian Air Force with 13 people on board lost contact with ground agencies around 35 minutes after it took off from Jorhat in Assam on Monday. According to the Indian Air Force, the aircraft got airborne at around 12:25 p.m. and lost all contacts with ground staff at around 1 p.m. A total of 8 crew and 5 passengers were on board the aircraft. The Indian Air Force has deployed all available resources to locate the missing aircraft. The search operations from air and also by ground parties of the Indian Army are planned to continue through the night. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said he had spoken to the Vice Chief of the Air Force on the steps to find the missing aircraft and was also praying for the safety of all those on board. And while this incident took place in Jorhat in Assam, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh visited the Siachen Glacier, the world's highest battlefield. He interacted with soldiers guarding the border beyond the heights of 12,000 feet and saluted their valor. He said he will personally send a thank you note to their parents for letting them serve the country. The Defence Minister was accompanied by Army Chief General Bipin Rawat and General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of Northern Command, Ranbir Singh.
आपकी सैलरी को, आपकी शौर्य को, आपकी पराक्रम को मैं हृदय की गहराइयों से समझ करता हूं। और मैं जानता हूं सेना में काम करने वाले जो जवान होते हैं, अधिकारी होते हैं, उनके अंदर एक स्वाभिमान का भाव होता है। वही स्वाभिमान की भावना है कि कठिन परिस्थितियों में भी लड़ने का, जूझने का आपका सदैव जज्बा बना रहता है।
The Siachen Glacier in the Karakoram Range is known as the highest militarized zone in the world, where the soldiers have to battle frostbite and high winds. Avalanches and landslides are also common at the glacier during the winters, and temperatures can drop to as low as -60 degrees Celsius. More than 1,100 soldiers have made the supreme sacrifice defending the Siachen glacier. In his first visit outside Delhi as Defence Minister, Rajnath Singh also reviewed security preparedness in Siachen with top field commanders of the area. Later in the day, he arrived at the headquarters of Srinagar-based Chinar Corps at Badami Bagh cantonment for a briefing on India's preparedness to deal with any possible eventuality or misadventure by neighbouring country, Pakistan. And Home Minister Amit Shah on Monday took stock of the country's internal security situation. National Security Advisor Ajit Doble gave a detailed briefing on the prevailing security situation in the country, along with Home Secretary Rajiv Gauba, Intelligence Bureau Chief Rajiv Jain, among others. The Home Minister was also apprised of the situation in Jammu and Kashmir, particularly in the border areas. The Secretary of the Research and Analysis Wing also attended the meeting and gave an overview on India's neighbourhood, while the Director of the Intelligence Bureau briefed the Home Minister on internal intelligence inputs. Several ministers took charge of their ministries on Monday. BJP MP from Chandni Chowk, Dr. Harshvardhan, took charge as the Union Health Minister for the second time. He served as Health Minister and was later given the charge of the Ministries of Earth Sciences and Science Technology in the previous Modi government.
मैं बहुत सौभाग्यशाली हूं कि मुझे इससे पहले प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 3 महत्वपूर्ण विभागों की जिम्मेदारी पिछले 5 सालों में दी। साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ अर्थ साइंसेस और पिछले 2 साल में मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, फॉरेस्ट एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज। और आज भी स्वास्थ्य एवं परिवार कल्याण मंत्रालय के साथ साथ उन्होंने मुझे साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी की और मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ अर्थ साइंसेस की जिम्मेदारी दी है।
BJP MP from Patna Sahib, Ravi Shankar Prasad, took charge of the Ministry of Law and Justice. He said neither he nor his ministry will be a post office on judicial appointments and that he will work as a stakeholder in consultation with the Supreme Court and High Courts to expedite recruitment of judges.
हमारी सरकार को बहुत ही निर्णायक बहुमत मिला है और इस निर्णायक बहुमत में लीगल एक्सेस, लीगल एजुकेशन और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इन जस्टिस डिलीवरी, इन तीनों का बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण स्थान है। ये बहुत सुखद संयोग है कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मुझे संचार और आईटी का भी विभाग दिया है। तो एक साइनर्जी बनाकर टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से एक्सेस टू जस्टिस को और इफेक्टिव किया जाए, ये हमारी पूरी कोशिश होगी। इट विल बी अ प्रायोरिटी एरिया। दूसरा विषय जो मैं बहुत ही गंभीरता से देखूंगा कि ऑल इंडिया जुडिशियल सर्विस के लिए स्टेक होल्डर कंसल्टेशन को एक्सपेडाइट किया जाए। जैसा मैंने पहले भी कहा है कि हम चाहते हैं कि जुडिशियल अपॉइंटमेंट्स में अच्छे लोग आए, उसका सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस और अधिक मेरिट बेस्ड हो।
V.K. Singh also took charge as the Minister of State in the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Remember, he served as Minister of State in the External Affairs Ministry in the previous Modi government.
Unlike other ministries, this ministry already has priorities. And those priorities are to ensure that whatever infrastructure is required by the nation, that gets completed in as fast a time frame as is possible.
And what are the challenges?
Challenges will always be there when you deal with infrastructure, you deal with so many issues in which constructions are involved. All those are challenges, and the biggest challenge is how to overcome any challenge that comes.
Former Jharkhand Chief Minister Arjun Munda also took charge as Minister of Tribal Affairs. Munda had won Jharkhand's Khunti seat after narrowly beating his nearest Congress rival by 1,445 votes. And Smriti Irani, BJP MP from Amethi, also took charge of the Women and Child Development Ministry. Smriti Irani has also retained the charge of the Textiles Ministry, a portfolio she held during the first term of the Narendra Modi government as well. Ajit Doble began his second term as the National Security Advisor on Monday. According to an official order, Doble now has an elevated stature equivalent to that of a union cabinet minister. As per the order, the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet has approved his appointment for a 5-year period with effect from 31st May 2019, and it will be coterminous with the term of the Prime Minister. A 1968 batch IPS officer who retired as Intelligence Bureau Chief in 2005, Doble's appointment is the first key posting announced by the Narendra Modi government after assuming office for a second term on 30th of May. Doble is now the first National Security Advisor to have been appointed for 2 consecutive terms. He was appointed to the post on 30th May 2014 and given the stature of a Minister of State in September that year, after the Chinese side insisted on ministerial level talks. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a 2-day visit to the Maldives on Saturday in what will be his first bilateral trip after his re-election for a second term. The External Affairs Ministry announced on Monday that the Prime Minister's state visit to Maldives comes at the invitation of the Maldivian President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih. Following his visit to the island country, the Prime Minister will also travel to Sri Lanka on the 9th of June, and that the 2 visits would reflect the priority India attaches to its neighbourhood first policy. The Ministry of External Affairs also said Prime Minister Modi's visit will provide an important occasion to review the recent developments in bilateral relations and exchange views on issues of mutual interest to further strengthen the special relationship between the 2 countries. The Rajya Sabha will meet from 20th June to 26th of July for the upcoming session of Parliament. In a press communique, the Rajya Sabha Secretariat announced on Monday that the President has summoned the Upper House to meet on 20th June for the upcoming session of Parliament. Subject to exigencies of business, the session is scheduled to conclude on Friday, that is 26th of July. The first session of the 17th Lok Sabha will commence on 17th of June. The newly elected members will be administered the oath on the first 2 days, and the new Speaker will be elected on 19th of June. President Ramnath Kovind will address the joint sitting of both houses of Parliament in the Central Hall at 11 a.m. on 20th of June. And time for a very short break here, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Do stay with us.
On this edition of India's World, we will analyze Prime Minister Modi's visits to the Maldives and Sri Lanka.
You chose neighborhood, you chose an Indian Ocean country, and you chose a country which you did not invite to your inauguration because of the BIMSTEC.
Elections are coming in Sri Lanka. Now that's very crucial because we heard reports of the Rajapaksa brothers coming back in active politics. I mean, we don't know if the dynamics how they play out. 2015 was the last election, so anytime now, as Sri Lanka heads to elections, so will it remain the same? Because the last Indian experience was again Rajapaksa had a different viewpoint to India.
The naval capabilities have to keep building. We have a very robust maritime domain awareness network, and we have this mission-based deployment in all choke points 24/7 throughout the year. So, we are there.
Yeah.
But we have to carry on this path, and more sort of assets have to be created which are visible.
Watch The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira, at 9:30 p.m.
Enter the majestic forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan and you'll come across the Jaipur column. A gift to the Viceroy from Savai Madho Singh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, to commemorate the creation of the new capital. The 145-meter high column is crowned with 6 pointed crystal stars on a bronze lotus, and inside the stone shaft runs a steel tube which weighs a little more than 5 tons. The base of the column has text conceived by Lord Irwin and Sir Edwin Lutyens inscribed on it.
Welcome back. You're watching News Tonight. Revising its draft education policy, the Centre on Monday dropped the provision of compulsory teaching of Hindi in non-Hindi speaking states. In the new draft National Education Policy 2019, the reference to Hindi has been removed, and the decision of third language selection will now depend on the students. In the earlier draft, the panel proposed mandatory teaching of Hindi in non-Hindi speaking states as well. According to the revised draft, the modular board examinations for language proficiency would test only basic proficiency in each language. Thousands, especially in the southern states, had protested in what was seen as an effort to make Hindi mandatory up till class 8th. Well, according to news reports, BSP Chief Mayawati has asked party workers not to depend on any alliance partner to win votes, but to improve party's position in the state of Uttar Pradesh. At a meeting of the Bahujan Samaj Party's Uttar Pradesh unit, Mayawati also asked the office bearers, MLAs and newly elected MPs to be prepared to contest the assembly by-elections on their own. A total of 11 assembly seats will face by-polls in Uttar Pradesh after the MLAs who won the Lok Sabha polls. Her remarks, according to sources, are significant as the BSP does not usually contest by-polls. 9 BJP MLAs won the Lok Sabha elections, while 1 each from BSP and SP were elected to the lower house. Mayawati also cited poor performance of its alliances in various states during the Assembly and Lok Sabha elections to drive home the point that the BSP will have to strengthen its own organizational structure and not to depend on other parties in order to win votes. Ten Indian cities are among the world's 15 hottest places. 2/3 of India is in the grip of the heat wave, with the mercury breaching the 45-degree level. Rajasthan's Churu recorded 50.3 degrees Celsius, Haryana's Narnaul 47.2, and Uttar Pradesh Banda at 47.4 degrees Celsius. Even places like Shimla, Nainital and Srinagar in the Himalayas recorded temperatures 2 to 4 degrees above normal, and the number of hot days in hill stations has increased over the last 2 decades. Many states are also running acute water shortage. The situation is not going to change anytime soon, as the heat wave is going to be the same in the coming days as well. The Met Department has predicted severe heat wave in East and West Rajasthan for the next 2 days. And at a time when the country is reeling under severe heatwave conditions, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has called upon scientists as well as researchers to address pressing issues like climate change, global warming and extreme weather events so that the world is better prepared to tackle adverse situations. Interacting with scientists and young researchers of the National Atmospheric Research Laboratory near Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh on Monday, the Vice President said weather and climate have been posing new challenges with each passing day. During his interaction with students, Naidu referred to challenges like an increase in high-impact weather systems, water scarcity, drying up of rivers, growing pollution, and survival threat to several animal and plant species due to climate change, and said it was highly imperative for scientists and researchers to address these issues at the earliest.
As we are all aware, weather and climate are posing new challenges with each passing day. We are experiencing global warming and its effects in the form of extreme weather, cyclone storms, intense thunderstorms, torrential rain and droughts. Changing weather and climate patterns also affect our agriculture and economy. That could severely affect the lives of the people, plants and animals alike. It is highly imperative for scientists and researchers to address these issues so that we are better prepared to tackle any adverse situation. I exhort the Indian scientists in India to institute methods and processes on generating long-term climatic quality data and numerical models for accurate assessment and prediction. I am very happy that I am here in one such institute which accurately predicts.
And news now from the national capital. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on Monday proposed to make metro and bus travel free for women in the national capital. The move is aimed at making public transport a safer mode of travel for women. Arvind Kejriwal said that the proposal will be implemented within 2 to 3 months. Officers have been asked to prepare a detailed report within a week, after which the proposal will be brought in the cabinet. Besides, the government has also sought feedback from the public.
जो सब्सिडी दी जा रही है, हम इसमें प्रावधान इस तरह से रखेंगे कि किसी के भी ऊपर सब्सिडी थोपी नहीं जाएगी। कई सारी महिलाएं अफोर्ड कर सकती हैं, जो अफोर्ड कर सकती हैं वो अपना टिकट खरीद के, सब्सिडी उनको लेने की जरूरत नहीं है। बस में भी टिकट खरीद सकती हैं, मेट्रो पे भी टिकट खरीद सकती हैं। और हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा उनको इनकरेज करेंगे, जो अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं वो सब्सिडी का इस्तेमाल ना करें, ताकि और दूसरे लोगों को इसका फायदा मिल सके।
Reacting to the proposal, BJP's Delhi unit chief Manoj Tiwari said it looks like a desperate bid by the Aam Aadmi Party to buy votes.
52 महीने हो गए हैं दिल्ली में आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार बने, और बचे हुए जो 7-8 महीने हैं उसमें अचानक से दिल्ली के उस घोषणा मंत्री को अचानक से ख्याल आता है, अरे जल्दी जल्दी कुछ घोषणा करो नहीं तो हमारी तो जमीन गई।
A Delhi court on Monday allowed Robert Vadra, accused in a money laundering case, to travel abroad for 6 weeks for health reasons, with a warning that he shall not tamper with the evidence. Special Judge Arvind Kumar allowed Vadra, the brother-in-law of Congress President Rahul Gandhi, to travel to the United States and the Netherlands and directed him to submit his travel schedule. The court also imposed various conditions on the businessman. It, however, did not allow Vadra to go to the United Kingdom. The court directed Vadra to submit the address of his stay abroad along with his contact numbers to the court before his departure. The court also directed him to furnish a bank guarantee of 25 lakh rupees and also informed the court about his arrival in India within 24 hours. Vadra is facing allegations of money laundering in the purchase of a London-based property located at 12 Bryanstein Square, which is worth £1.9 million. In the Muzaffarpur shelter home sexual assault case, the CBI has got 3 more months' time to complete the probe. The Supreme Court on Monday ordered the CBI to complete by the 3rd of June its inquiry into the alleged murder of 11 girls at a shelter home in Muzaffarpur town in Bihar. In its earlier affidavit, it had said 11 girls were allegedly murdered and a bundle of bones was also recovered from a burial ground in Muzaffarpur. Whereas several other girls were sexually and physically assaulted, it was also found that 35 girls with identical names who had stayed at the shelter home at one time or the other. The apex court also directed CBI to probe the allegations of unnatural sexual assault under Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. During the hearing, the bench also dismissed an application filed by prime accused Brajesh Thakur, who was seeking to intervene in the matter. Seen as a landmark move for the country's animal husbandry sector, the formation of a separate ministerial portfolio for animal husbandry, dairy and fisheries under the newly formed Narendra Modi government has been welcomed by the dairy institutions and bodies across the country. The Indian Veterinary Association and Pashu Chikitsak Mahasangh have welcomed the government's decision. The IVA has also thanked the government for introduction of combined vaccine of foot and mouth disease and trial, in fact, on trial basis.
A revolutionary step was taken by the Government of India, and during the first phase, during the trial period, Haryana has been allotted and we have vaccinated 70 lakh animals against FMD in first phase, and 70 lakhs we will be vaccinating in the second stage. Consensus, all the states of Union of India, they have been empowered to go for dual vaccination, combined vaccination. This is a major achievement.
And that's it from us in this news bulletin. Thank you for your time.